get really clear on what it is you're here to do and be really clear on who you're here to serve because it's not a one size fits all.
Hello and welcome back to the Amanda Kaufman Show. And I am delighted to be interviewing my friend Angela Wilson. And Angela and I had the good fortune of meeting each other in a virtual networking community that we are both a part of. And then I found out she's actually Canadian. So that made me fall in love all over again. Angela is an amazing coach. She's really focused on helping women to discover the power that they already have within them. She uses her personal experience. She's an amazing listener, and she has learned to listen to that little voice that was asking, isn't there more to life than this? And she found the courage to say, yes, there is. And she believes that you can do the exact same thing. Angela, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Amanda. So glad to be here. I can't wait for our conversation today.
Yeah, me too. I love coaching. I've been helping coaches to build their coaching businesses for years because I have found coaching to be one of the most empowering and impactful ways to disrupt my old way of thinking to make room for the new way of thinking. And I'm so curious, Angela, what brought you to coaching of all things? Why choose that?
Well, it really, it comes out of my own journey and realizing that. So I'm also a CPA. And so I did that for many, many years and then decided, you know what, there's more. There's more to me than this. And I want to assist and really help women to really step into their power because we all have it inside us. And I think the beautiful thing about having a coach and working with a coach is they get to walk beside you on the journey of you discovering it, because that's what coaching is. It's you discovering it.
Totally.
The coach is just there for guidance.
I had a mentor once who said that an idea thought is always more powerful than an idea planted. And I think that that's kind of the whole idea behind coaching, is that when you're the one that's coming up with your path, you're going to own it in a totally different way. I completely agree with that. So you were living your life as a CPA and, you started to get this sense that there's more, there could be way, way more. Like, tell me a little more about that, if you don't mind. Like, what were some of the signals that you needed to make a change personally that led you here?
Well, like so many of us, I had a life-changing event.
Okay.
I had a long-term, very toxic relationship that ended abruptly.
Oh, no.
I had to figure out who I was. And, it's one of those, I don't regret any of the things that have happened because it's brought me to where I am and I absolutely love where I am. But what I did was I didn't know who I was. So I engaged in coaching, mentoring, and I went on the journey to find out who I was because had always been this little voice inside me that was doing that. There is more to life than this. There is way more to me than this. So that's what I did.
Yeah, you started to work with a coach yourself. So you're
Mhm.
now coaching, but you're definitely a happy customer of the process.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, what inspired you to go from that exploration to stepping into becoming a coach yourself full time?
It was really the desire inside to help others not have to fall into some of the pitfalls that I found myself in, and to really have them come out and live a life of whole wealth, and to really go after their unlimited life, because that's what we're here for. We're here to live the absolute best life that we desire because that's what we deserve. And I wanted to have that for everyone that wants it. Because again, it's up to us to go on that journey. I'm just a person that gets the honor and the privilege to walk beside you.
So you just mentioned a term that I'm not totally familiar with, which is whole wealth. What's that about?
So whole wealth. So that's what I work with my women a lot with regards to whole wealth. And it is being wealthy in absolutely every aspect of your life. Because as soon as people hear the word wealth, they automatically go to money. It is an important part of everybody's lives, because who's kidding who? We can't do anything without it. It's here. But the way we react to money and the way that we think about it it plays out in all other areas of our lives as well. So it's really
Interesting.
about how can I be wealthy? How can I be wealthy in every aspect? And that's going to be really unique to every individual because
Mhm.
we all value different things. So what I find valuable and what I want to be wealthy in is not going to be the same for you. And so that's
Well, that's so
one of these
true.
things that I love.
Yeah, it's so true, and been my life experience as well. And I'm so curious, like when you're working with people, are you working like privately? Are you working with groups? Like, how do you love to work with people to help them discover this whole wealth?
So I work both. I
Hmm.
do group programs and I also work individually. Really depends on the person because
Hmm.
some people just want to dive in fast and furious and go for it. Typically they want to do that one-on-one because they just want to blast through and come out the other side because they're looking for that transformation instantly. And then others, it's they love being in a group because they love that connection, the interaction between people. That's why I love doing both because I both have a really great place in the process that I take people through.
I love that. I love that. And, one of the things that can get in the way for a lot of coaches is the fear of not having enough clients and not having enough people that are really interested in what they do. So I'd love to ask, like, especially successful coaches like yourself who have already moved into group programming and one on one, like, you clearly have a volume of relationships. What would you say are your top three tips for a coach who wants to have the kind of impact that you're having? Like, what are the absolutely must dos?
So the must-dos are, I would say, number one is clarity. Get really clear on what it is you're here to do and be really clear on who you're here to serve.
Mm,
Because it's not a one size fits all at all. Because the people that can hear my voice will hear my voice, and the people that can't, there's another coach out there for them. And
so
so
good.
get really clear on who it is that you want to work with. And I would say the second one is visibility. Get yourself out there and let your voice be heard because that's how people get to know you, love you, trust you, and want to work with you. They need to hear what you're all about and they need to know where you're going and how you view things. And then
Hmm.
the third would really be consistent. Like show up and be authentically you and be vulnerable and be I'm pretty transparent and I'm not going to say pretty. I am very transparent with every conversation that I have because that's what I believe in.
Hmm.
So show up and just be that beautiful amazing person you are and the people that you're here to serve, they'll come to you.
Hmm.
Don't push.
I think, oh, don't push. I'm gonna pull on
Yeah.
that thread in a second here, but I think one of the things that attracted me to you, Angela, that I wanted to invite you onto the show and have a real conversation is that you really presented with that clarity, and you had this easy demeanor, I would say an unapologetic demeanor around like I'm here to do this thing, this is what I'm doing, and you just said it with such ease and clarity that when we discussed like the possibility of being on the show, I was like, heck yes, all in, because I knew what you were about. I knew who you served, and I had an inclination that somebody listening to this would find value in hearing from you. But I think like the underpinning of all of that was that conviction with which you presented. And it wasn't like a staged thing. It was just here's who I am, here's what I do, and there was just clarity, like you said. Now, I wanted to pull on the thread a little bit there. So, say a little bit more about what's really driving behind all of that consistency. What should people really be doing?
So the consistency really is about showing up and showing up authentically. So that
Mm-hmm.
consistency, if you decide that you're going to whatever social media you decide to use, whichever channels are the ones that's where your people are, be there consistently so they can actually see you. If you're going to put out a newsletter, be consistent with it. If you put stuff out for people to see and also when you're on podcasts, be consistent to get on podcasts, get your voice out there. It's
Totally.
all, yeah, because if you're not doing that, then you're not top of mind and people don't remember who you are.
Hmm.
So that's really what the
Yeah.
consistency is.
Yeah, I love that. I was just doing a live stream this morning, so this will come out a little bit later. So sorry, listener, if you can't find it in the feeds, but I was talking about how we've been really evaluating, we've been in business for the last 8 years, and we have seen a marked difference in how people are showing up as coaches, how people are consuming coaching, how people are consuming media, and all of those kinds of things. One thing that I would add to the consistency is like, make sure you're measuring it, man. My goodness, we've made the decision that we're going to unwind a Facebook group that we've invested tremendously, like think hundreds of thousands of dollars into cultivating that community, but our metrics are showing us that it's no longer the most resonant, most effective way out of all of the different ways that we're testing for the different channels and so on. So yes, be consistent, but it's like, it's feeling more and more, and I'm curious what you think about this. It's feeling more and more like a absolute prerequisite that you are consistent, that you are really clear. In part because it has become very competitive, but I think also in part because of the way that people are, consuming media and the, I guess, the issues of the day for the consumers. I'm curious, like, have you noticed a little bit of a shift in your own business?
Yeah, absolutely. So, with the way they're consuming, it's like you got to be top and you got to hit fast. Really from that standpoint of people don't want to wait and listen to a whole pile of stuff. They want to hear what you have to say, and they want to assess that your message, they can hear themselves in it, they can see themselves in it. And if you're not
Totally.
if you're not doing that, then they're like, next.
Yeah.
You have a very short window to get somebody's attention span right now. And so it really is about being consistent with that. And I love the fact that you brought out with regards to measuring, because have to measure your metrics, and if you don't measure metrics, guess what, they don't grow, because if you're not paying it, what you focus on, you get more of. It's that simple. And so if you're not so if you're not focusing on your impact, then it's gonna be all over the map.
Yeah, and like, how effective is it? So I heard a really, I can't remember what the name of the rule is, sorry listener, but it's basically, I'm calling it the 70-20-10 rule, where it's like 70% of your stubbornness, your effort, your consistency goes to like known channels, things that are going to work, and are repeatable. You have a lot of history behind it. When you do this input activity, you're going to get like most likely this output result. 20% you should be putting towards adjacent things. So like, for example, let's say that you've really mastered the art of LinkedIn and you're getting a lot of really good traction on LinkedIn. You might want to try maybe a different feature in LinkedIn, but like 20% of your effort. Don't let go of the 70% that was working for you, that you were really consistent with. This is like the biggest thing that I see people do, is they flip this. And then the 10% is like, get wacky, get experimental. And, I think that's one of the things that I'm really grateful that I've done over the last few years, is just always have this ratio going of the 7-20-10. And when I was newer in business, it was flipped 100%. I was always doing 70% all new, all crazy. 10% was sticking with something, and the 20% was still also the new. Like, it was like 90-10. It was all new all the time. I'm curious, like, for you, how did you find stuff that worked for you that you could stick with, that seemed to be like effective?
Well, really, with regards to social media, it was really watching what type of posts were getting traction. What type of posts were people looking at? What type of posts were people spending time at? It's that type of thing. And I think the other thing that I want to add into what you said is really stay true to who you are. Because, you can do all kinds of stuff, but if you're not staying true to who you are, even in your social media, then everybody can sense that. They can sense that you're not being authentic, and that will turn people off quickly. So I think that that's the other piece that you really need to go after. So part of my strategy is, I don't flip things really quickly from the standpoint of, let's make sure that it's really not working before we do like a big shift in something. Because maybe it's just, you know what, we're almost there, we just need to tweak it. We need to tweak it and get it on.
Yeah, it could be a tweak. It could be like an increase in volume, I've noticed, can make a really big difference. Yeah, that's so true. On that, I've been doing a lot of business coaching, but the whole time, like I started as a life coach. I started as a high performance coach, an energy coach. And so like, even as I do the business coaching and I'm helping people with their systems and their marketing and all of those kinds of things, I've never left the coachy part behind where you're really talking about identity and you're talking about your value system and everything. So do you think you could speak a little more to like, how do you find that balance? Okay, maybe this is a bigger question than we can do in a few minutes, but how do you find that balance between, yes, remaining true to who you are, but also holding the space for who you're becoming?
I love that question. And that is a huge question. And that's a question, that's a big question that I work with a lot of my clients on. And it's really about, be here where you are, but it's really going after your dreams, your vision, your desire. That's what pulls you forward. And so when we get really clear on what that is, then we can start taking action towards that. But so many of us forget about that piece of it. And so we kind of stay stuck. So it really is about that's that clarity piece again. Oh my gosh, clarity is so important in everything. But it is getting clear on, what is it that I really desire to go after? What is it that I really desire to be like? And what is it that I really desire my life to look like? Because if we're in business is part of your life, it's not your life. And so you really need to get clear on what all of that looks like and how it all supports each other, because it's all intertwined. And if you're not taking care of yourself and really mastering where your mind is, where your mindset is, how you're supporting the passion that you have, then things will start breaking down. It's that simple. They will start breaking down because you're not paying attention. You're not being intentional.
And I totally agree with that integrative and holistic point of view. And what I keep thinking about is just over the last 8 years of this entrepreneurial journey, and even the 10 years preceding that while I was in corporate America, like the person who left corporate America was definitely a different person than the one who started there. And the person who started as an entrepreneur, I'm very much a different person than I was when I first started, when I had 8 names on a Post-it. I was incredibly insecure, socially anxious to like an 11 out of 10 level. And now I find myself, in these networking groups going, oh my gosh, like I'm so excited to meet a new person and deepen a connection with somebody. And so I think like finding that balance though, that you don't snap back into, I call them like the coping activities or the kind of the retreat behaviors that you might have to if you find yourself so overextended or out of clarity. Because what I've noticed is, I love what you're saying about clarity, because what I've noticed is the more clear I am, the more I can tolerate with discomfort. If I'm uncomfortable and I have no idea why, then I'm going to default to old behaviors. So I love how you lead with clarity. Angela, what is the best way for people to get to know you better and follow you?
So the best way to get to know me and to follow me is really on LinkedIn. You can find me under Angela Wilson. It's really that simple. There's no catchy little name there. So yeah, follow me and see what we're up to. There's always great free things coming out all the time. So I'd love to see any listener that wants to come out and join me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. I can't wait to get this episode out because I think that there's still a lot of amazing opportunity for coaches that are really committed to like, this is what I really want to do. And I think you're living a wonderful example of that, Angela. Thanks for sharing with us.
Well, thanks so much, Amanda.
Appreciate it. So, hey, listener, don't forget before you go, make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. And if you could take 30 seconds to leave a review, we really appreciate it. Those 5-star reviews help people find the show and trust us with their ears. And in fact, if you've got some friends who have been thinking about making a big change, being bolder in their life, becoming successful as a coach, wanting that clarity, make sure you grab the link to this episode, you text it to them or send it to them on DM. Find 3 friends that you can light up today with this episode. All right, folks, we'll be back with another episode soon. Until then, we'll see you later.